Hello, welcome to a very special edition of Swapping Joysticks. I'm your host, Ben, and joining me as always, blowing into his cup of tea, it's Ed Nightingale. Now, this is a very special episode.
Oh, it's too hot.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's a hot tea.
This is a very special podcast because we are going to be talking about Elden Ring Nightreign. It's called Elden Ring Nightreign, isn't it? It's not just Nightreign.
No, it's called Elden Ring Nightreign. No colon. Just all
colon.
3 words. Yeah.
Elden Ring Nightreign, and we're going to talk about that because Ed has written the review for Eurogamer. Go and check it out now. I'll put it in the link in the description. But we thought we'd have a little podcast and chat more about it, because obviously, review is very formal. But we want to quiz you and find out what you think, because you played it a lot, haven't you?
Yes. Well, as much as I possibly can. It's been an interesting review period. This is the first time I've ever reviewed a multiplayer game. And it's interesting because usually I focus on single player games. I like RPGs. I like Souls-likes. And you can just sit in your own time and play through a game and you're done. But a multiplayer game, you have to play with other people and you have to find people to play with and match up. And there's been a lot of waiting. And I mean, look, I'll say firstly, the servers are not great. And the matchmaking is not great. It will be better at launch because there will be more people. But for us, a limited number of people trying to review it, it's been interesting trying to get on. But the game itself is well worth getting into a match with.
And who have you played with? Anybody that we know?
I played with Rosie for a bit. We had a podcast with her.
Who's Rosie?
PS Access. Some other journalists, which has been nice. I haven't played with Dom. But we had our other podcast with Dom.
Yeah, we did.
After I did the preview.
We chatted with Dom Dom's Round Table.
Yes. So I've been chatting with him a lot and getting some tips because he is a pro.
Yeah.
But he's on PC and I'm on PlayStation. And unfortunately, there is no crossplay. That's one that we'll get into it.
Well,
but that's a downside. There's no crossplay.
Do you want to tell people what it's about? Because there might be some people here, and I know there's some that are they're going to be watching this or listening to this and being like, I know everything about it. I just want some extra tips. But let's start with, what is it about?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, we'll get to those tips. I think the 3 things people want to know are, how many people do you play with? Can you play on your own? And how difficult is it? I will get to all 3 of those things. So stick with us. Elden Ring Nightreign. So this is a spin-off of Elden Ring, which, if you haven't heard, is a really popular game from FromSoft. Their big open world Souls-like. This is a 3-player co-op multiplayer game, and it is part Souls-like and part roguelike with a little bit of Fortnite in there. And I say Fortnite, it's not massively Fortnite-y, it's just it's a way of explaining how it works.
It's got a storm that gets smaller and smaller.
That's basically it. So effectively, you have 3 days and nights to kill the Night Lord of your choosing. And there are 8 Night Lords to kill, who are big, bad bosses that are really quite tricky. And so you have 3 days, well, I say 2 days, really. The 3rd day is the Night Lord battle. And you basically jump into a match, and you have a day to run around the map and get as many levels as you can by killing things. You want to get all the different items and equipment, and every time you kill a little mini boss on the map, you get a buff that you can choose one of 3 buffs. So that's why it starts to feel like a roguelike, because there are lots of randomized elements. So the map is the same every time.
And it sounds just like a typical. In fact, I'm just going to pause 1 second. Sorry, it was there. I couldn't hear myself at all, and I like to hear myself. I was going to say, it sounds very much like a battle royale game where you go in and you loot places, you find the odd secret area, and you go and get the better weapon so that it prepares you for later.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that.
There's no PvP, right?
No. It's 3 of you on a map, and it's just you versus the enemies. And yeah, so you want to get as much as you can, but it's all randomized around the map as to what enemies will be there. The map is ultimately the same every time.
Yeah, I'm going to say, you say ultimately, are there any changes?
Yes, but we'll get to that.
Okay. I don't know. A lot of these questions I'm asking are ones that I want to know. I'm not being prompted.
Yeah. I'll do the basics and then we'll get to the extra bits. So essentially, you run around, do as the best you can in becoming as strong as you can. But all the while, there is a blue storm around the map that basically focuses in and in and in and in all the time. And if you're in that, then you lose health and eventually you'll die. So that focuses in on a single point on the map to funnel all the players together, all three of you. Mm-hmm. And then you have to beat a boss at the end of the day. And if you die, then you do it all again. And if you beat the boss, you go to day 2. And then you get to do it all again. And it's the same map, so you can basically scoop up anything you missed, any more difficult bosses you can fight. And again, you get funneled down towards a boss at the end of day 2. If you die, you do it all again. If you beat the boss, you then go in to defeat the Night Lord. And like I say, there are 8 Night Lords that are like the sort of story bosses, I guess. There is a bit of a story. And that is the structure of it. So it's Souls-like sort of combat and challenge, but with the randomized elements of a roguelike, with a touch of Fortnite in the storm coming down to funnel players. And there are random elements in the map to help liven things up. So for instance, there might be invasions by other bosses. So it might be a boss like comes down from the sky and then invades you, and you get chased across the map by this boss. Or there are instances where the landscape changes. Okay. So half the map suddenly becomes covered in scarlet rot and becomes like a scarlet rot forest, poison swamp forest thing. Or it suddenly becomes a mountain range in half the map. And there are extra bits you can do in those areas, which I won't spoil. But there are extra bosses and little things that you can do, which might give you a legendary weapon, because there are different levels of weapon. So you might get a really good weapon to help you with the Night Lord. So there are randomized things like that as well. There are also little story bits, which is loose, but interesting. So you are playing as one of 8 Nightfarers. So these are set characters, but they loosely follow or parallel the classes in Elden Ring, or your typical fantasy thing. So there's your sort of all-rounder knight, there's a tank guardian character, there's a black mage, there's a necromancer, there's an archer, there's a barbarian. So they kind of follow the typical things, but they all have specific moves, specific ultimate moves that are super powerful. And you're in a team of 3, you can choose any of those 8. You can have all 3 the same if you really want. Sometimes that's a good thing. And all of their powers kind of sync up in combos, which is really fun. And I'll talk more about the characters I like in a minute. But there is a journal in your base is called the Round Table Hold, and that's where you start each match. Okay. And in there is a journal. And
can you see any other players there? Is it a social hub?
Okay. No, it's only you. But it's kind of for story reasons. So you can see the other Nightfarers. You're controlling one. You choose which. And you can see the other ones around the map. You can talk to them, and there are story bits. And there's a journal. And once you progress through killing all the bosses, you unlock a new bit of the journal. And that then starts what's called a remembrance. And then it gives you like a little mission to do in your next match. So it might be, hey, can you go and collect this item for me? Or can you kill this invader for me? And once you do those, you progress the story. So there's a little story for each of those characters, which is nice.
How are the stories? Are you intrigued? Because I'm guessing you've played most of the characters. Are they different? Are the stories different for each character?
I've tried them all. Though that structure works the same for everyone, really. They're quite interesting stories, and it just adds a little flavour. Like, this is not a story game. I mean, people said that about Elden Ring, but then some people loved it. This is not a story game. This is very much a multiplayer co-op game. This isn't something to play for the story, but it's a nice bit of extra flavour. It gives some character to these people, so they're not just, here's random knights that you're playing as. It's like, no, there's actually a bit of backstory to who they are and why they're in this realm and what they're doing. But they all play really differently, which adds a lot of interest as well.
And which one is your favorite so far then?
So my favorite, there's one that's my favorite, and there's one that I think is the best.
Okay.
And they are different for reasons.
Which one is because I keep seeing you as the archer.
So the archer is called Iron Eye, and I never used a bow in Elden Ring, or in fact any Souls game, because why would you use a bow? I mean, sometimes you might want to. You might want to shoot a dragon from afar, with a million arrows. Fine. But there is a character in this called I who is an archer, and he, for me, is, I think, maybe the easiest to get to grips with, because you can keep your distance. You don't have to get up close with melee. You can keep your distance a bit, fire off arrows, and he has they all have three skills. A passive, a character skill that generally refreshes quite quickly. They're all on cooldowns. And then an ultimate skill that's really powerful. And with I, his passive is that he finds items more easily, so you're more likely to find good items. His character skill is that he does this like dashing slash with a dagger that then marks an enemy and puts a cross on them, and that means they take more damage.
Do they take more damage from everybody or just you?
From everyone.
Okay.
And what's cool about that, you want to have that on all the time because it refreshes really quickly. But also, when he dashes, it's got iframes, so you can dash through enemy attacks. So if an enemy's like charging at you, you can basically like charge back and slash through it, which is really useful. And then his ultimate is this huge one shot that goes firing across the battlefield and shoots like everything in its path, and it's really powerful. So I just think he's very easy to understand. I think also I play Monster Hunter as an archer, so it kind of reminds me a bit of that.
How's the targeting in it? Like, have you ever done your ult and it's completely missed? Or
No.
Okay.
Like because it's like you would, it's not like a third-person shooter. You can free aim. There's an option for that. But mostly you just, as you would in Elden Ring with a melee character, you just click the stick to target and fire off with R1, and it shoots, which is really cool. So he's a really good character. Yeah, he seems to be the one most people are using to get through bosses.
How's the synergy between characters? Because, like you said, that one is the archer, so it's kind of further back and you can shoot. Are there ones that you find that work really well together? Have you found like a 3 that is like the perfect combo?
I don't think there's necessarily a perfect combo. I think, and it depends on the Night Lord that you're facing. So the Night Lords are these huge boss battles in arenas, and they are incredibly hard. And a lot of them have these big AoE attacks, or they're charging around the battlefield. And what I would say is that if you're primarily a melee character, it's quite hard to get up close. Whereas with the archer, you can just shoot from afar no matter where they are. And that's why I think the archer is sort of becoming the top tier character for that reason. Okay. My other favorite character, and this leads into your question, my other favorite character is the Duchess, who is sort of a thief type character.
Was she the one that you played in the preview?
Yes. And she has a dagger, so she slashes really, really quickly. And she has the best dodge because she can dodge twice, so she can dodge out of the way really easily. And her ultimate skill is to turn everyone invisible, which you're like, hang on, that sounds really OP. And it's useful, but it's on a very slow cooldown, so you can't use it very often. Her other ability, however, is essentially, I can't remember what it's called now, like rewind or something like that. And essentially what it does is it repeats the last few seconds of combat. So, for instance, if you get a critical hit on an enemy, you can then press a button to rewind that again and do double the damage. Or if you're doing loads of slashes and building up a status effect, you can rewind it, do it again to build up even more. But what I didn't realize until someone told me is that rewind works with other characters as well. So say, for instance, your character does their ultimate, I, as the Duchess, can then rewind time and do it again to do extra damage. So things like that, they start to sync up. Or
if loads of people did damage at the same time, would it do it all at the same time as well? So if 2 people did their ult on the enemy pretty much at the same time, could you rewind time and get...
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Sounds like it'd be really beneficial to be in voice chat.
Yes, for sure. Like, and there are other sync up things. Like, there's a bit in the trailer where the raider can summon this big tower of stone, but then other characters can jump on that and leap off it. Or as the archer, you might go up the top and like shoot down from the top. The other thing that makes them sync up is the way you revive players. So if you get downed and you lose all your health, you are downed, and there are 3 segments on a wheel. So the first strike is like 1 segment, second strike 2, and then 3. But your other characters can then can hit you to revive you. and then you're back in the game again. And one of the best ways to revive people is to use your ultimate attack, because it's the most powerful against the enemy, but it also is like an instant revive for your fellow players. So there's then strategy of, well, do you want to use your ult to damage the enemy, or do you want to do it to play more defensively? So the Guardian, for instance, has this like swooping attack where he flies in the air. He's a Birdman. Don't ask me why. He is a Birdman. He's very cool. He flies in the air and then like stomps down, and this big sort of shockwave comes out. And that's really powerful, but it's also really good for reviving multiple of your players at once. Because if two others are down next to each other, you can revive them both in one hit. And
I was going to say, because I saw you play it, and there were quite a few times where two people, like the other two, or you and somebody were down, and you still managed, like within a few seconds, everybody was revived again. So
yeah,
like when it's just one person left against this one giant boss, and then having to revive others, is it all hopes lost, or do you have quite a decent chance to get back?
If you know what you're doing, you can still survive. I mean, if all three of you die, then you're out, obviously. So as long as one person is still alive, you can revive the other two. And if you keep dying, like I say, there are 3 segments, and if it's 3 segments, that takes quite a while, quite a lot of hits to revive someone. And if the other 2 people are both on 3, it's not quite all hopes lost, but
and if you die in the overworld, which I saw you do, you like lost a level or something? Like, how do they have to do it quickly?
So you can still revive each other when you're in the map. And if you die there, you go back. It puts you back a little bit, I think, nearer Grace. But you then lose a level, and obviously you lose your runes. And you can run back and get your runes, but if that happens to be in the storm, when the storm is coming, do you want to risk running into the storm to get your runes and back, or do you not? So there's a lot of strategy there. And yeah, I think playing it on voice chat, to answer your question from before, I think it's not absolutely necessary, and you can play with people, just randomers, without voice chat, but it really helps to talk through strategy, because you can really strategize, you can sync up your moves, you can work out who's doing what when, and there are some bosses they're not puzzly in the way that like Demon Souls bosses are puzzly, but some of them have slight gimmicks to them that require you to really, or mechanics, that require you to really sync up.
Yeah, because I saw that one where it was like this, it does something, and if it doesn't get interrupted, pretty much everybody's dead. So because it does it quite regularly, you have to kind of sync up your ults. You
have to do enough damage to interrupt its attack, and the best way of doing that is to use your ult. But if you've used your ultimate to do general damage or to revive a teammate elsewhere, then you don't have it for that moment, and then you're at risk. So you have to, like, again, sync up with everyone else and work out your ults. So yeah, there's a lot of strategy, but I think that's what makes it a really fun multiplayer game, is that it forces you to play with other people.
Obviously, like the 3-player co-op, it's PvP game I'm thinking of is Apex, and they had a really cool pinging system, and there was like various voice comms that you can do in there without actually having to speak. Can you do anything like that with this?
You can pin the map, so you press a button to bring up the map, and then you can click the right stick. You can move the right stick to move a cursor, and then click it to ping something. And all 3 of you have a different color, so you can basically ping it, and it comes up on the compass, like on the map.
This is very basic.
Yeah, it's super basic.
Yeah.
But if 2 people ping the same thing, it turns white, which is meant to show that it's an agreement that you're going to go. And it's interesting when you first land on the map, because you fly in. It's it's like the battle bus. You fly in, but on an eagle. Or maybe it's a falcon. I don't know. It's a bird. You fly in on a bird, and you land on the map, and everyone starts looking at the map, pinging different things like, let's go here, let's do this, let's do that. Which, again, if you're on voice chat, you can talk through it. And if you're not, then you have to sort of decide, well, do I follow everyone else's ping, or do I go do my own thing? I was going to say,
is there a benefit to sticking with people, or can you go off and do your own thing and then meet in the middle?
If you're with other people, you'll share runes.
Okay.
If you're on your own, then you only get the runes like in the vicinity.
I was about to say, yeah, so if you are 3, but you decide to go and just wander off and go in a totally different part of the map, you won't get their runes.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Need
to test that out.
Yeah, I haven't really been looking at what runes I get. There are times where suddenly I've got way more runes, but I haven't been keeping count of
Okay.
the runes that I get.
Maybe someone in the chat,
And
if they watch this after it's out, they can let you know.
yeah, or I'll go and check in a bit. I
No,
think
because then you have to be really rude. You have to like leave your. Although, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you would test that out.
well, you just do your own thing. I mean, there are moments where people want to split up and do their own thing on the map. Obviously, you're also at risk because if you die, then your players aren't nearby to revive you, and then you're.
And are the runes split, or do they? Does they?
I'm gonna sneeze.
I can't. Can I pause? Okay, I'm gonna mute when you sneeze. Are you not gonna sneeze? Look at the light. Look at the light. There you go. That helped.
I think so. It's hay fever season.
Does it split the runes, or does everybody get the same?
You all get the same.
Okay.
So yeah, it is beneficial to stick together, and you want to have good strategy. It might be, for instance, that someone collects a Stonewalled key, and then you can open up one of the Everjails that you will have seen in Elden Ring if you played it. And
Is that the one you died in earlier?
no, I don't know what you're talking about. I have not died at an Everjail. How dare? And so yeah, if someone's got that key, then they might be like, "Hey, I want to go to the Everjail." So you need to be able to sync up and do that together. Or maybe you want to level up your weapon, and the way to do that is to find smithing stones. Where are they? Underground. So maybe you want to go into a cave and find some smithing stones. However, if you do that and the storm comes, it's very difficult to run away because you're stuck underground.
Yeah.
And you have to run out as quickly as possible.
Sounds very claustrophobic.
Exactly that. So you have to time that right if you want to do that. My top tip is to aim for the churches as soon as possible, because the churches give you an extra health flask.
Right.
So I think you can heal 3 times, I think, and then there are usually 3 churches on the map randomly. And if you go to those, you can then get 6 heals.
Now you said
so you want to do those as quickly as you can.
it's the same map. So the second, if you do the first day, kill the boss, and then you do the second day, are those flasks refilled? Can you what's the difference between the map and the first day and the second day?
Well, all your health is refilled when you get to a site of grace.
But can you go and get a flask from the same church again? Has that been repopulated?
No. So the map is randomized, but it is the same for 2 days. So once you've got something, you've got something. What that means is that maybe you get halfway through a boss and then like a mini boss on the map, and then the storm comes and you can't finish it. You can then go back to it the second day and it will have had its health knocked back.
Oh, okay, that's generous.
So you can then carry on.
It's just an inconvenience, that boss, then, at the end of day 1.
Yeah, kind of. But there are some bosses that are a lot easier than others. And so the more you play, you start to recognize, the big, horrible, terrifying, evil birds, let's not go near those on day 1 because you're not strong enough. But by the time you've got more runes and you've leveled, which you do at a site of grace, you don't have to choose individual stats. You just press a button to level up, and it does all of them for your character based on who they are. Once you get to level 9, 10, you're like, okay, cool, now we can go and kill one of the horrible bosses. So yeah, you can strategize throughout the day as to what you prioritize day 1 or day 2, depending on how strong you are.
All right, before we go on to all your opinions and your hot takes and everything, let's carry on a bit more with telling people about it. What is it like with progression then? And I mean progression in the game, in each of the games, but also in the game itself. So how do you finish it? And also in the game, how do you improve your weapons or stuff like that? So
yeah, so when you're in a match on the map, like I say, you can improve your weapons with a smithing stone. You level up at a site of grace. It works as you would expect Elden Ring to, really. It's just that everything is incredibly fast. So you have a super fast sprint. You can parkour around the map, like jumping up the side of cliffs. There's no fall damage, so you can just run and jump everywhere. So it becomes this really frantic, scrappy race because the storm's coming. It's how do you maximize your time and prioritize and just run around everywhere as fast as possible? So it is literally like you're speed running Elden Ring within a few minutes. If you do 2 days and a Night Lord, that will probably take you 30 to 40 minutes, I would say, as a run. Which is why then if you fail, you're like, oh, we just lost all that.
Yeah, but what do you get from it?
But you get relics, and you get a currency called merc. So relics, I'll do first. Relics are effectively permanent buffs, or semi-permanent buffs. So there are 3 slots for each one. Okay. So a small relic will be like 1 buff, and a big grand relic will give you 3 in 1. And each character has 3 slots to put those relics into.
Okay. So you want like 3 grand ones? Can you put 3 grands in?
You can do. However, these slots are coloured, and so are the relics. So there's blue, red, yellow, and green. And I don't think they necessarily focus on one thing or another. It's just that, say you're the Duchess, she might have 2 red and a green slot.
Okay.
And so if you then pick up a blue relic, you can't use it, but maybe one of the other characters can. And there are ways of changing, I won't say, but there are ways of changing the colours of those slots.
Right.
So every time, if you lose a run, you're still gaining relics, and that might help you for your character, for another character. You can also buy more. There's a merchant, so you can buy more. And if you don't like them, you can sell them, and you get merc back. And merc is what you use to buy more at the merchant. Merc is also used to buy new costumes. So once you unlock a mirror, you can then unlock new costumes for each of your characters. And some of those are nods to previous FromSoft games. And I should say as well, the mini bosses and the bosses you fight around the map are all taken from Elden Ring, from the Dark Souls games, from... actually, there's nothing from Bloodborne or Sekiro, but they're all taken from Souls games.
What about
so it feels...
weapons as well, right?
The weapons are all from Elden Ring.
Because I know Bloodhound Fang you had earlier.
Yep.
Do you need Somber Smithing Stone for that, or just regular?
There's Smithing Stone 1 and 2.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, what about if people... So, like, what is the game? Like, what do people play? What's the target? What's the goal? You said there's, like, story bits that pop up and you have to do kind of collect a small flask from the map or whatever. But, like, what is the overall campaign mission?
So you sort of discover bits of that along the way in little cutscenes, but effectively
not story, don't spoil the story, but like
no, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just saying, like, you pick that up slowly, but the overall goal is to kill the 8 Night Lords. So when you first start, there's only 1 available, and you have to do that 1. Once you've done that 1, another 6 unlock.
Elden Ring, Souls games always love their tutorial boss.
Yes, and the first one is tricky. It's a real hurdle. It's the same one that you will have played in the network test, which is a 3-headed Cerberus dog. Spoiler. So if you've done the network test, it's that boss. That is the first one. Once you defeat that, another 6 unlock, and you can do any of those in any order.
6 unlock, okay.
Yes, so that makes 7 in total. And then once you've defeated at least 4 of those, including the first one, an 8th one unlocks, which is like the final boss, in theory. And once you've done that, you get credits, and that's completing the game. But you still, you kind of want to do all 8 of the Night Lords. You want to defeat them all. And there is the story of each character following those remembrances that you get. Each of those has like an end point as well. So you're going to want to basically complete the story of each of those characters, as well as doing all of the Night Lords.
I was about to say, is like the ultimate goal for that is to like beat every boss with every character? Would that unlock everything, or is...
Probably. There are trophies as well. I haven't really looked at the trophies, but there are trophies for doing certain missions in the game. Some of the random stuff that I talked about has little missions, like the mountain and the Scarlet Rot swamp and things. So there are extra missions to do in those as well, and see things. I believe there is DLC coming as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what that's going to add. And I think that's...
Well, should we go into I want to go into your hot takes, because I know you have a hot take. So, tell us, Ed, should this have been a live service game?
Yes. That's my hot take, which is not exactly
hot. That is a very hot take. Like, people wanting a live service... somebody wanting a live service game, especially in, like FromSoft live service? What's wrong with you?
Well, I know. And this is the thing. Okay, a couple of things with that. So, FromSoft makes single-player games, and I only play their games single-player. Yes, you can co-op, you can summon people in to help you, so they've had multiplayer, but not in the way that this is a proper co-op experience. And at first I thought, I don't know if this is going to work, because I like playing Souls games on my own. I like that challenge on my own. But actually, it's a lot of fun playing with 3 people.
Yeah, because you couldn't do anything with solo.
As a group of 3.
How was solo?
I would not recommend solo playing. Now, it is possible. So just to quickly explain with multiplayer, because I said I would, it's 3 players. And you can, if you queue up on your own, it will matchmake you with 2 random people if you're playing online. And so you get put as a 3. However, you can queue as a 2 or as a 3. So if you're, say it's me, you, and Moni. Moni would never play this. Say it's the 3 of us. We can, I could invite you, we're a 3, and we can just jump straight into a match together as a 3. But say it's me and you together, we can queue as a 2, and we'll get paired with a random third.
Do you think that's a...
You can't play 2-player, but they did say they're thinking about adding it.
Do you think they should?
It would be interesting. I think the game is clearly geared towards 3 players.
Why?
Partly because of the difficulty, but also just the Night Lord bosses, their attacks, their animations are clearly geared towards 3 players. So the Night Lords, I won't say sort of what they are, apart from the one I said already, which has been seen already. But as I said before, there are big, imposing bosses, and they have huge AoE attacks. Some of them are charging or flying around the map. And if you're on your own, it's really hard to dodge everything, and you're getting all the aggro because you're the only one. And I think one of the real benefits of playing with 3 as a group of 3 is that the boss is going to be switching between you, which allows you to actually get some attacks in. So it's clearly geared towards 3 players. I think as well, when you're on the map, you can cover more of the map as 3 players. You get more runes as 3 players. You're much more likely to level up and defeat bosses.
So it'd be more
together.
than just adding a 2-player version. Like, there would be quite a lot of things they would have to change.
Yeah. So they have, if you can also do it all on your own. So you can queue up and there's a single player option, and you just go straight in and you do everything on your own. But that is absolutely the most difficult way of doing it, because you can't cover enough of the map on your own. All the bosses you have to do completely on your own. And they have, they've changed the, what's the word? The balance.
Okay, yeah.
So they have rebalanced it slightly for single player. So I think the bosses, take a bit more damage and things like that. However, I still don't think you can cover enough of the map to be strong enough on your own. So it's really tricky. Now,
there will be people doing it.
There are people who will do it. I already know people who have done it, in the review period. So it's possible to do it. People will absolutely do it if you want that challenge. But I think it is a game meant to be played with 3. For them to do 2 could kind of work somewhere in the middle, but they'd have to do a bit of rebalancing with that. So yeah, single player is 3-player is the way to do it. Single player is quite useful for the remembrances, because it might be you have a specific mission to do on the map, and again, other people can help you. But if you're on your own, it's like, don't mind me, I'm gonna just run off and do my mission on my own. Like it's easier on single player, so it's useful for that. Or if you want to test a character out and see what they're like, because some of the characters are tricky to use. The mages,
there's no training mode or anything.
There's an area in the Roundtable Hold where you can test out the moves.
Okay.
But against a dummy, it's not a moving target, so it's not really the same. So if you want to have a bit of real world experience as such, just do a single player match.
What do you think? Because you said that it's really floaty and jumpy and really fast paced. What do you like that? Because I love that. Elden Ring felt slightly light and stuff when you're jumping around, but it's because that was the first Souls game with jumping, right?
Yes, it was.
So and this has now gone to the nth degree.
Apart from Sekiro, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it needs to be, because you need to cover the map, and that's the thing. As I said before, it feels like it's speedrunning Elden Ring. So I feel like if you've never played a Souls game and you've never played Elden Ring, I think you might struggle a little bit to get into this. It feels like this is, with the repeat of all of the old bosses from Souls games and this celebration of what From Software have done, it feels almost like a kind of thank you to the 30 million people that bought Elden Ring, to go, hey, here's a little spin-off multiplayer thing to have fun with. and it is a small spin-off. Like, there's a decent amount of content in there. Trying to learn how to play as each of the classes is going to take a bit of time. Defeating all the Night Lords will take time. Sometimes that can be frustrating because of those roguelike elements, or maybe you get paired with people who don't really know what they're doing as well, or
going back to your call,
it just means you have to learn it. So it can be frustrating to get through it, but once you've done it all, there's not like, it's not as long as Elden Ring. I think I've put over 30 hours in, but in like a week.
So going back to like your call for Miyazaki to make this a live service game, what do you think would benefit from it?
Well, that's the thing. It's
like, how would they make it better?
It would just prolong it. And I think to a degree, it's me being greedy, because I really like the game. Really like the game. There is so much to enjoy. The combat is just like you'd expect from Elden Ring, but it's being able to share it with other people. Like, I've made some really nice memories and there have been some really fun moments around the map, good and bad, which have been great. And I just want more of that. And because of the structure of it, the way that you go through all of the Night Lords and there are different characters and you repeat things again and again, I just think you could massively extend it by making it a live service game. Now, I don't mean shoving in a battle pass. I just mean just frequently adding to it, having seasons. The map is the same every time. Maybe they could do a second map, or evolve the map, or
make it snowy over Christmas.
Some of the random some of the random events, they could do more of those things, or they could add in new bosses, new character classes to play as.
Yeah.
Even if it's just new costumes that they keep updating, there's a lot they could do there, because the foundations of what they've made are great. And I think if it was live service, you could really extend that for a long period of time. And instead, they've created something that is what it is, and it's great, and I love it. But I do think there's a bit of a drop-off point where it's not going to compete with... I mean, it's never going to compete with something like Fortnite, because that's too big, and this is a lot more niche. But
it would
it's
have a
not going
hardcore
to get to that point.
It would have a hardcore set of fans.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah, interesting. Tell me some things you really love about it then. What's like the best? Why do you keep going back and playing? Because like sometimes you can do 40 minutes. I know you said you get like runes and stuff that you can carry over that makes it more of like a
like permanent upgrade.
Yeah, what am I talking about? The what kind of game? It's a
roguelike.
Roguelike, that's the one.
There you go.
So you can get these permanent things, but does it really? If you spend 40 minutes and you die, because I know you've died to the final boss quite a few times with like a slither of its health left. Does it make you want to throw the PlayStation out the window, or is it satisfying that you've got some nice rewards from it?
So the roguelike part of it, I would sort of compare to Returnal, in the sense that the runs are quite long, and sometimes it feels like you've the challenge is there, and you've gone through, and you sort of feel like, oh, I got to the end, I didn't do it, and I've wasted my time. But it's so much fun along the way. And yes, you get relics that help you. You learn more of the boss patterns. And because there are so many random elements, it's like, oh, next time maybe I'll get a really good weapon, or I'll have a great run with some really good buffs. Or maybe I get paired with someone different if I'm playing with randomers who they happen to be really good at it. So yeah, it's I never feel totally annoyed if I haven't done it, because I know next time could be better. And that's the thrill of a roguelike. But you're mixing that with Souls combat, and Souls combat is just as good as it's ever been. And each of the characters is distinct and plays very differently, which I really like. So being able to switch between them and learn different characters' moves is really, really cool. I haven't touched the mage, or like, I've played as them, but I haven't done as much as the mage characters. They are hard mode,
really?
I think. And people always go, oh, Magic's easy mode in Souls games. Not here.
In Elden Ring, it wasn't necessarily, was it?
I mean,
not the final boss.
It sort of is, because you can keep your distance. But that, for me, is why the archer is easiest, because all you're doing is just firing arrows and keeping your distance, and then dodging when you need to. But he is slightly stronger than the mage characters. The mages are really squishy. I say mages, there are two. So there's the Recluse, who is a sort of black mage character, who gives sort of Ranni the Witch vibes. And the way she works is she has spells on a staff, and then she can absorb the energy from enemies, and that's how she replenishes her FP, like her magic points. So you have to balance attacking and absorbing it. But once you've absorbed it 3 times, you then do it again to fire back a spell. It just means there's quite a lot to manage, because you've got to manage your attacks with also having enough FP, which the melee characters don't have to worry about. I mean, they have stamina, but so does she as well. So it just feels like there's a lot to manage, and she's really squishy, like a couple of hits and she's out. So you've got to really be good at keeping your distance and managing all of that. Then there is the Revenant, who is the other one, who works like a summoner / necromancer.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've seen some big beasts that weren't enemies.
Yeah, so obviously in Elden Ring, you've got summons, where you can summon in different characters to help you out, or your mimic, if you want that. This is sort of playing on that idea. So she can summon, she has 3 different named characters. So there's like a speedy one, a really big one, and then one in the middle. And she can summon those one at a time to do damage for her. So again, you want to keep your distance, but then you want to use each of those characters. But then knowing when to use which one in the right instance, there's a lot of strategy around that, which is going to take time to learn. So that's why I've stuck more with the melee characters for now. But they all play so differently. So there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of fun to be had in learning how to play each character.
What's a good starter?
The best starter is Wilder, who is the knight, sort of all-rounder character with a sword and shield.
Okay.
Pretty just standard Souls fare. But he has also really easy to understand skills. So his character skill is a claw shot, which is basically a grappling hook. So you can use that to pull enemies towards you. But if the enemy is bigger than you, you then go flying towards them. So it might be that there's a boss that's really far away. You can use the claw shot to just swoop across the map.
Is it really far? You can get some decent...
You can go quite far with them. And then his ultimate is this like explosive missile thing, which you have to be really close. You have to be right next to them to do like an explosion. But that often will stagger the enemy. So it's then really cool if like a boss moves and then you use the claw shot to like slide across the map and then go bam with an explosive shot and crit them and then stab them, and like you can sync these moves together, which is really cool.
Which is the one that had like the spinning attack that knocks them? Is that the one? It looked like a spinning fire.
There is
Mary and the whoever Mary
that's
is.
Guardian.
Okay,
that's the Birdman. So he has like a whirlwind attack that it can kill smaller enemies, like groups of them, in one hit. But what it also does is sort of interrupt attacks,
which you might need,
which is quite tricky. It's not as useful against bosses as I wish it was. And he's the tanky defense character, but his attack isn't that strong. He uses like spears and halberds, but he's not that strong in attacking. So he's very much a support character for defending. And I think the archer is also a support character, because you can revive people. When you revive people, you hit them. But with him, he can do it from afar. So if someone's dying on the other side of the battlefield, you can run over and just shoot them from a distance without having to go up and hit them.
And they keep missing. Can you target somebody when they're down?
You can.
Okay.
But it's a bit awkward.
Yeah. So what are your, to finish up, what are your impressions? Give us, like, summarize.
Who's
it for?
It's for Souls players who want something different. I think if you haven't played Elden Ring, or if you're not super into Souls games, I don't think the roguelike and multiplayer aspect are enough to draw you in. And I am worried that Souls players are going to play this, finish it in a week and go, cool, and put it down.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to have the longevity that I think it deserves, because it's brilliant. It has so many cool moments, like great moments where like I'd beaten the first boss before Rosie had, and so then I was able to join her game and help her to do it.
Humble brag there. Rosie Caddick from PlayStation Access. You're there.
But I was then able to help her, and then she was so elated that she managed to do it, and I was elated to help her, and it was like, you know, you've had that moment in a Souls game where you finally beat a boss, but you're able to do that with other people and share it. And yes, you can do that in old Souls games because you can play co-op, but this is really forcing the co-op element of it, and that's what makes it so fun. I just, like I say, I think if it had more live servicey elements to it,
or just constant
it
updates.
could be, or just that, it would have a bit more longevity.
Because what's Helldivers, that has like constant updates, doesn't it? But is that live service? Is there quite a lot of?
That's definitely a live service game.
Does it have microtransactions? Because I've not actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
This doesn't have that. So yeah, but it's more Souls, and I love Souls games, and I loved Elden Ring. So it's that, but in a different way. And I like that it's made me play or think about Souls games in a different way. Each of those classes play so differently that it makes you reconsider your combat.
Obviously, if you do another playthrough of Elden Ring, would you change your class completely?
Like I now want to go back and play Elden Ring again, but as an archer, to see if I can do the whole thing again, because I found Iron Eye so fun. Elden Ring I tend to play in the same way, and now I'm like, oh, hang on, what if I played it this way? And because all the weapons you get are random, it means that you try out different weapon types that you might not have done before. So it's really shaking up the gameplay. It's people who play games with a randomizer as a randomizer mod.
Yeah,
it's like that.
Yeah, that's true.
So it really makes you think in a different way, and it's so fast paced, which is it's this really fun scramble to just like get as powerful as you possibly can, and then test your soul skills on some really, really, really cool bosses. Some of them are just super difficult. Some of them are genuinely beautiful, and like oddly peaceful, but still challenging. So it's giving you that Souls rush that I think people love about Souls games, but it's doing it in like half an hour bursts, that you can share with other people. And for me, that's super fun. I love that about it.
And as to finally wrap up, because this isn't a publication or anything like that, this is just swapping joysticks. We get a 10-point scale. What would you give?
Oh, do we?
What would you give Nightreign? Now, this is completely separate.
You put me on the spot now.
I have, yeah. I'll give you a second, because this is completely separate to your Eurogamer review. They'll record at different times and everything, and also we have a 10-point scale here. So, if you decide to give it here a 10 out of 10, and then in Eurogamer you give it a 2 out of 5, they can both be correct, even from the same person. But still,
wow.
What would you give Elden Ring Nightreign out of 10?
I reckon I'd go 8. Just because, I mean, it is tricky. Maybe I would add a point on once it's fully live. And the reason I say that is because one of my two negatives, I guess, with it are the longevity of it, and that's just because it's good and I want more. It's not, it's not long enough. But the other thing is that the servers are not great. I've been playing with people around the world, and like there's been quite a lot of lag and stuttering at times. It's taken a long time to get into a match. So even when we're like PSN friends, or if you want to join with people, you can either, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox or Steam or whatever, you can invite your friends, or you can put in a password, and if you all put in the password, you join the same match.
The Monster Hunter way, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. But that password is really finicky and doesn't always work. Okay. And there are times where there's 3 of us, and 2 of us have joined and the other person hasn't been able to, and it fails. And it's like, it hasn't always been that easy to actually join up as a team. And so that has made it a little bit frustrating.
Hopefully,
and that's just a server thing that I'm hopeful over time, when more people play it, there'll be more people playing. Hopefully they'll be able to, make the syncing
boot up the
work.
extra servers if there are any.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, once it's fully out there, hopefully that's improved. Because it's slightly annoying with that. So I'd say 8 at the moment, because it's brilliant, but there's room for growth.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. This is our first time we've done like a dedicated special episode.
Yeah.
And before we'd tacked it onto the regular, but do subscribe, do leave a comment if you did enjoy it, if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening to it on your podcast player, click on that subscribe, because we do talk about games and the news and pretty much everything once a week with Swapping Joysticks. And we've got some interviews as well coming up. So, Ed, where can we find you? Because you're going to be streaming this, aren't you?
I am. I'm going to be. I finally finished Sekiro.
The noise you made, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I finally finished that. So yeah, I'm going to be streaming Nightreign at least for a couple of weeks, I would say. I'm hopeful it will be longer. Um, my aim really is just to team up with anyone who wants to join. And if people are stuck on a specific boss, I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I've played it, so I'm happy to come in and give some tips and help out. So yeah, I will be doing that on Twitch the next couple of Mondays. Ed_Knights is me. You can use that on socials as well. And please go read the review on Eurogamer.net.
Thank you very much. And yeah, find me, Biggest Bennis, everywhere that counts, also on Twitch. And yeah, I won't be playing this, but I will watch you. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad someone likes watching me.
Yeah. Okay. Go to swapperjoysticks.com to get all the links to everything else. And we'll hopefully see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.
See you then.